Okay. He says, because he wants everyone to hear this, my best wishes to you all. Is this painfully terrible, or is it all right? Can you hear this okay? Okay. Sort of okay. He says, Navaratri is approaching soon. Let us take an oath to chant the name of Divine Mother, Jai Shri Durga, during this auspicious occasion from October 2nd to 12th, 2024, and today is the 2nd, so we have to begin today. This is a very special way of welcoming Ma Durga in our hearts and also celebrating the Durga Puja in the perfect way as initiated by Swami Swahanandaji Maharaj. We cordially invite all of you in this Japa Yajna and encourage all of you to pledge extra Jai Shri Durga chants. Chanting the name of the Divine Mother helps one to feel the power and strength of the Divine Shakti in our life, as also to receive the blessings of the Mother. The spiritual energy and merit generated through 100,000 repetitions is equivalent to performing a grand Durga Puja. And that is what he would like us to hear. Okay, so everyone on, and can you see the shrine over there? The shrine has the picture of Swami Akhandananda, Sri Ramakrishna's disciple. We read one of his books here about him. And today is his birthday because he was born on Mahalaya. And today is Mahalaya, the first day of Durga Puja, when Mother starts coming down from the mountain. So it's a very auspicious day, a good day to start our chanting. And I see Lito there. Lito, are you doing your Jai Shri Durgas? Dottie, how's it going on that? Okay, we're keeping tabs.
Yeah, Lito's doing this
Good.
chapel.
Good. Glad to hear that.
If you keep the echo on, a Jai Shri Durga will be a lot easier.
Nah. Okay, now we will begin our reading. Okay. Now we will go back to Swami Ramakrishnananda, the apostle of Sri Ramakrishna, to the south, that is South India. Okay, and we're now in the reminiscences. And let's see, we're on by Swami Sarvananda. Swami Sarvananda was a great Swami. He was one of the greatest scholars of the order. His translations are considered extremely accurate, and a disciple of Mother, as I remember. Okay, so we're right in the middle of these reminiscences. On the following day, I was somewhat inadvertent in my shrine room work, and that brought a severe scolding from him, that would be from Swami Ramakrishnananda. Not being accustomed to that, I think we read this last time, didn't we, about getting scolded so severely? And they broke down? Yes, that's what I remember. Okay, then I'll turn the page. Okay. His method of training, that Swami Ramakrishnananda, was certainly violent and even at times harsh, but his whole heart was set upon the central point as to how to unfold the spiritual nature of the disciple or the novitiate. He would not brook any contradiction or questioning. Was that of the he would not brook any contradiction or questioning, much less a refusal from us. Indeed, his method was like that of the sledgehammer blow of the blacksmith. He who could stand it would get a form that could stand the stress and strain of all the vicissitudes of life and be fit for the realization of the higher ideals. I believe there's only one sadhu who stayed with him the whole time, and that was Swami Paramananda, Swami Vivekananda's disciple. Many came, but few could stand his test. During my stay with him, I found that he did not lay much stress on spiritual practices such as meditation or jopam. His chief care was to see how precise and accurate, neat, and devoted we were in our duties to Sri Ramakrishna and to him. Indeed, therein lay the seed of self-control, concentration, and devotion that a true spiritual life requires. When one has these disciplines, one can easily progress in devotional practices, if one so chooses. One thing he would constantly harp upon, in season and out of season, that Sri Ramakrishna was actually present in the shrine room, nay, in the whole monastery, that every one of the things of the monastery belonged to him, and that all our activities in life should be directed towards him or to his service. That was the one sadhana we should adopt. Whenever he would stand before the picture of the Master and cry out in a sonorous voice, Jai Guru, Jai Guru, the feeling of the living presence of the divine would be so deeply stirred up in one's heart that it has better to be felt than described. If spirituality means the awakening of the consciousness of the spiritual verity that resides not only in the depths of our own being, but also outside, as the basis of this phenomenal universe, then certainly the method of training of Shashi Maharaj, that's his pre-monastic name. Shashi was his pre-monastic name, and for ease, people would just call him Shashi Maharaj, revered Shashi. Was the training of Shashi Maharaj was spiritual par excellence. He was very orthodox, nay, at times it verged on superstition. But it was all due his unflinching allegiance to the commandments of the scriptures and the sayings of his master, Sri Ramakrishna. But he was no stickler to the letter of the law. He was highly intelligent and scholarly enough to understand the noble spirit of the scriptures and follow it scrupulously. He would not stir out of the mat, nor write letters on Thursday afternoon, which is considered inauspicious for Bengalis, or in Ashlesha and Magha Nakshatrams. I have no idea what that is. As his master had observed those restrictions. Obviously, there's some astrological inauspicious times. Do you know what it is? Too complicated. Thanks, Ruth. We have Ritu with us right now, so.
South Indian belief of the bad times every day.
Could be.
What do they call it? I've forgotten.
I think it's the inauspicious.
It's an inauspicious time. So even in India, when people are being sworn in the South,
Yeah.
they make sure that the swearing in is not between yoga.
Ah, okay. So those are in the South Indian, in the inauspicious times. I know Sri Ramakrishna observed Thursday afternoon. You didn't do anything on a Thursday afternoon. It was an inauspicious time. So our Stephen up here, who was trained by a Bengali, is like, no, nothing Thursday afternoon. Nothing Thursday afternoon. Okay. Nakshatrams, as his master observed these restrictions. At times he used to say in fun, that old fellow, that is Sri Ramakrishna, in Bengali Budo, that has injected these superstitions into me. In teaching scriptures and in philosophical discussions, he used to assume the attitude of a cold logician, and there he would not exhibit any of the fanfare or emotionalism of a bhakta, that is, a devotee of God. His basis always used to be the Advaita Vedanta, that's the non-dualistic Vedanta, although for practical life he laid great stress upon the devotional aspect of dualism. He would not encourage us much in argumentation and philosophical discussions. He would repudiate all arguments for argument's sake. He used to assert that the right attitude of a student should be strictly that of an inquirer, eager to learn from elders, not by mere logical disputations and ratiocinations, but by the devout unfolding of the mind to the light of the truth, which the teacher might shed, even as a budding flower receives the rays of the sun and brings it open to full blossom. In those days, our monastic life in Madras was rather even and stern, quite uneventful, yet full of that calm repose and inner joy which the presence of a truly great spiritual saint could bestow upon the surroundings. Though across the span of 40 years, which is how long it's been since he was with him, the very memory of the serenity of that life stirs us even today, an emotion that is incomparable. The days thus glided by for some time when a great event occurred that arrested my attention and deepened my devotion to him. One day, it so happened that there was nothing edible in the store to offer Sri Ramakrishna in the afternoon. The financial condition of the mutt in those days being very poor, the coffer was quite empty. Generally, the afternoon offering was made punctually at 4 p.m., and it was 3 o'clock that the fact was discovered that there was nothing to offer. When the matter was brought to Shashi Maharaj's notice, it sent him into consternation. He took it as a test that the Lord was putting him to. Like a true saint, He knew it positively that nothing could happen in the universe without God's will. He said not even a blade of grass can move without his will. And so, if such a dire eventuality could take place, it could not be without his cognizance. What is, he said, what is a man but a piece in his chessboard, as he often said, quoting a saying of Ramakrishna. So he was neither angry with us nor anyone else for not noticing the fact beforehand. His ire and grievance were turned solely against the master himself. He burst out in a terrible growl. "You want to test me. I will eat sand and do Swamiji's work here, Sirrah." Sirrah. probably Shala. Probably Shala in Bengali. "You are testing me. I know. But you should also know my grim resolve. I should rather die and perish here than budge an inch from this place. Do your worst, if you will." His face became ruddy and glowed in terrible anguish and fervor, anguish for not being able to offer anything to the master at the right time, and fervor in the belief of the omnipotence and omnipresence of his divine master. He went on the hall for some time, paced up and down in the hall. It was a tense half an hour. We youngsters were entirely dumbfounded, not knowing what to do to mitigate the direness of the situation. Just then, some soft knocks were heard at the front door. Mr. Kandiai Chetty, an old student of Shashi Maharaj, had come. He was ushered in, and it was found that he had brought with him some wheat flour, ghee, sugar candy, and dried fruits. He placed them before Shashi Maharaj and also 5 rupees in coin. It was so unexpected at that dire psychological moment that we could not but see the hand of Ramakrishna in the whole affair. It was 3:30. There was a half an hour to still make the afternoon offering. Shashi Maharaj burst out in childlike glee and made a joyous roar, bade us all bring 2 stoves, and made sweetmeats and other nice preparations for the offering. There was a great stir among us all. Every hand was engaged to finish the task quickly, so that when it was just 4 p.m., several courses were made ready for the offering. The joy of Shashi Maharaj knew no bounds when he himself offered them to the master. Another incident that occurred sometimes about this time, is fresh in my memory, even now, and I must present it to my readers as it would give a real glimpse into the inner mind of Shashi Maharaj. It must have been in the latter part of April of that year. On one very sultry afternoon after supper, Shashi Maharaj laid himself down on the cot, and I was massaging him as usual. It must have been about 11 o'clock at night, and the heat was oppressive. He suddenly got up, tied his cloth around his waist, and went into the shrine room. He bade me to follow him. He stood with a fan near the cot on which Ramakrishna's picture was laid for the night's rest, and began to fan him, asking me to fan Swamiji's picture, which was placed on a pedestal. He went on fanning for nearly an hour, and then slowly laid down the fan and gently walked out of the shrine room. He also asked me to do the same. His whole behavior could not fail to engender the feeling in my heart that Sri Ramakrishna was actually present there, sleeping there on the cot, and we were serving him. Then he went out of the room and stood on the veranda outside the building. It was all open, and we were facing the sea. That's when it used to be in the ice house, which is directly across from the ocean. Large beach, is why he was talking about the sand going straight into the ocean. Then he went out of the room and stood on the veranda. We were facing the sea. I brought a chair for him to sit on it. I started to fan him. Though the night was deep and oppressive, the stillness of the hour, the rhythmic murmur of the breakers on the ocean, and the vast expanse of its glistening waters before our eyes, all wove an idyllic charm in our mind. Shashi Maharaj did not speak a word, as if his mind was soaring high to some transcendental region. His attitude indicated it. So naturally, I maintained perfect silence and went on fanning. When some time had passed in this wise, he suddenly turned to me and exclaimed, "You see, my mind is soaring in the heights. If I sit now, I can fall into samadhi immediately." I kept quiet and wondered at the sublimity of the situation. Perhaps more than an hour rolled by in that tense mood, and then he relaxed. It must be about 2 a.m. when he got up and said, "Now let us go and retire." It was a memorable night for me to witness such a sublime spectacle. Smiles has truly said that little acts of daily life are loopholes of character. To understand a great mind, we need not go to their great achievements, but observe their little acts of daily life. It is these that would really reveal their true greatness. The more you live with a great soul, the deeper becomes the revelation of his utter selflessness, non-attachment, purity of mind, resignation, and the constant consciousness of the divine presence. The very atmosphere around him is felt to be suffused with the aroma of a bliss that is really supra-mundane, and the influence he radiates is felt to be truly uplifting. These incidents mentioned above, and many a daily happening in the monastery, drew me closer to Shashi Maharaj and filled my mind with awe and admiration, the like of which I'd never felt before. Though I had the privilege and the fortune of seeing Swami Vivekananda and some of the most distinguished disciples of Sri Ramakrishna before my coming to Madras, and also knowing many great spiritual saints outside the pale of Sri Ramakrishna Brotherhood, that was the first occasion I was blessed with the opportunity of living so closely with such a great saint and of observing all the minute workings of his daily life. In the beginning of July, I left Madras on a pilgrimage to the south and Malabar and came back to Madras in September from Bangalore. I found Shashi Maharaj was busily engaged at that time in making plans for collecting the necessary funds for the construction of the new building on the Ramakrishna Mat in Mylapore. They'd lost the lease to the place at the ice house on the beach, so they had to find a place right away. I found on my return that the life of the Mat was going on as usual, only Swami Paramananda had not come back. I heard that Swami Abhedananda intended to take him to America to assist him in his New York work. Shortly, a small incident happened that perturbed the equilibrium of my mind a great deal. Those were the Bengal partition days, and we were young men of Bengal. We took the vow to fast on the 16th of September, that being the actual day when Bengal was partitioned, to make the necessary demonstration to annul the injustice done to Bengal. The vow was taken before my joining the mission, so on the 16th September of that year, I wanted to keep my vow of fasting. When Shashi Maharaj came to know of it, he was full of wrath and chastised me severely for having political leanings, even after joining a religious brotherhood. He said that the salvation of India can never come from mere politics, that I would be doing greater service to the country and to humanity at large if I could build up my life in the spiritual line chalked up by Sri Ramakrishna and Swamiji, and that making political demonstrations was Western in spirit and fitted ill with the spiritual ideals of India, and so on and so forth. His repugnance for the political activities of the country was very marked. But I could not be convinced by his arguments, and I insisted upon my keeping the vow to fast on that day. Of course, now I understand the justification of his attitude. He held that when a young brahmacharan comes to the elders for training and guidance, there should be absolute obedience on his part to the behest of the elders. Without absolute self-surrender, discipleship is never complete, and nothing good and great can ever really be transmitted by the master to his disciple. This is the spirit of the Hindu ideal of discipleship, and Shashi Maharaj was very strict on that point. But unfortunately, I was too ignorant and full of the revolutionary spirit of modernism to be able to understand him at that time. So when I heard him say, "If you don't hear me, you have to quit this place. I cannot allow any disobedience here," I at once collected the few articles I had and was ready to depart. Just then, Swami Vimalanandaji, another great disciple of Mother, called me out and took me to the beach and argued with me for nearly 2 hours over the matter. He was a very loving soul, exceedingly intelligent as well and sympathetic. He understood my sentiment thoroughly, yet with all sympathy and spiritual insight. He made efforts to enlighten me in the higher principles of the spiritual ideal, where human politics has no meaning. Both are incompatible to a great extent. If I had chosen the realization of God, he said, as the goal of my life, I should concern myself solely with that pursuit and should not fritter away my energy in small political activities. His arguments were very convincing, and his tender feelings at once assuaged my spirit and soothed my mind. So I returned to the Math with him and fell at the feet of Shashi Maharaj and begged his pardon for my seeming revolt. Shashi Maharaj was very glad to hear the change of my mind and began to speak of different sayings of Ramakrishna about the popular notion of political activities and blessed me to have true insight into the ideal of life. In passing, I may mention here that it was the practice with Shashi Maharaj never to allow us to discuss politics and speak on political topics on the Math premises, nor would he allow any newspaper to be brought in. One day, somebody brought in a newspaper and left it on the bench in the Math veranda. When Shashi Maharaj saw it, he asked me at once to throw it away into the dustbin and sprinkle some water on the place, saying, "Ganga, Ganga," to purify the defilement. He often used to say Ramakrishna could not bear the sight of a newspaper in his place, which is true. Time rolled on, and the sacred Navaratri season arrived, just where we are now. Perfect. Shashi Maharaj himself performed the puja in the usual Durga Puja style, and the whole ceremony was brought to a close on the 9th day by the performance of the Havana. It was all done before the picture of Ramakrishna. I believe Havana is Homa, right? Yeah, it's the Homa, yeah. Then came the Diwali. On that night, the Mother Kali is worshipped everywhere in Bengal, as well as in all the Maths. Shashi Maharaj kept a fast on that day and asked me and Yogin to do the same. The puja began about 10 o'clock in the night. Shashi Maharaj did not go through the usual long, lengthy process of Kali Puja that is usually done on such occasions. It goes on for hours. He performed it, so to speak, in an abridged style. Sacrificial light was lighted about midnight, and he asked us to sit around it. After performing the preliminaries of the sacrifice, he began to chant mantras and the vows that brahmacharans should take for life, being initiated in a brahmacharan's life, and asked us to repeat them after him. After chanting such mantras and vows, offerings were made on the sacrificial fire to Ramakrishna, invoking his blessings and support for our maintaining the vows. In fact, those vows, which we have an English translation of, are the same brahmachari vows that we take now. The same vows. They're quite beautiful. Swami Ramakrishnananda ji himself had compiled this whole process of initiation into brahmacharya from ancient scriptures and wanted the Ramakrishna order to adopt the same for its brahmacharans. That noise is just the temple adjusting to the difference in temperature. It's a very talkative temple. Adopt the same for its brahmacharans, like the usual Vedic ceremony for sannyasa. It is very different, both in spirit and form, from the Upanaya ceremony. That's the sacred thread ceremony. Upanayana. That's how it is. It's like, where does it fall? It isn't like we have that here. Well, we do that once just when we take our brahmacharya vows, and then bus. So Yoga and myself were the first to be initiated as regular brahmacharans after the ancient ceremonial fashion. That's really interesting to know. Before this, there was no brahmacharya ceremony in our order. I didn't know that. If we weren't reading this, I would never know that. Yeah. At the beginning of November, I was asked to go to Puri, where Swami Brahmananda Ji Maharaj was staying at that time. So I had to leave Madras and to bid goodbye to the blessed company of revered Shashi Maharaj, not knowing at that time that I would have to come back exactly after 5 years to take up on my young and weak shoulders the heavy burden of the work that Shashi Maharaj had so nobly and magnificently inaugurated and expanded in the South. Though my actual stay with Shashi Maharaj was hardly for 6 months, the impression he left in my youthful mind within that short period was so deep and indelible that even today, after 20 years, it appears to me quite fresh and green. He gave a specific mold to my religious life and deepened the spiritual values in my consciousness. So the debt I owe him in that respect is inestimable. Ramakrishna used to speak often of his spiritual life as a basket of many flowers, meaning thereby that in him there resided a perfect harmony of various religious moods and spiritual attitudes, spoken of in the Hindu scriptures as bhavanas. Just as a beautiful bouquet composed of many flowers of variegated hues, yet producing a charmingly harmonious effect on the eyes. And we find these variegated colors of his spiritual life very well represented and fully expressed in his disciples. No two disciples of his were alike. Every one had his own unique personality and spiritual mode of living, yet all of them drew their inspiration of life from the same master. This was indeed peculiar and remarkable in Ramakrishna's method of training his disciples. Each of them developed according to his own innate nature to the fullest extent one of the many spiritual moods that the master had developed in his devotional practices. Swami Ramakrishnananda was the very embodiment of that devotional spirit portrayed in the life of Hanuman in the Ramayana by the great poet Valmiki. He had the same unflinching, selfless devotion to his master, coupled with a solid puissance that would strike terror in the hearts of his opponents. He had a huge body, a powerful personality, a keen wit, and a heart more tender than that of a loving mother, and a face always glowing with a spiritual fervor and radiating an atmosphere of tremendous strength and utter resignation. He was essentially a bhakta, but there was nothing of that weeping type of effeminate emotionalism of the bhakti school in him. He was all strength. His scholarship in the Hindu sculptures was next only to that of Swamiji in the Brotherhood. Yet he was simple and unostentatious like a child. Indeed, his was the rarest type of devotional life, a glorious gift of Sri Ramakrishna to modern India. And that is the end of Swami Sarvananda's. And that was really quite gorgeous. You know, it's interesting, when you go to Chennai Mat, the order, where he started, where it is now located, in Mylapore. You go in, and before you even get to the temple, on the left-hand side, there is a charming shrine to Shashi Maharaj, to Swami Ramakrishnananda. The statue is about my size, and we're wearing ochre, and it's what he was able to do, and in the entire South India, is absolutely remarkable. It was like a huge before and after picture, before and after Shashi Maharaj. Because had he not come there with his tremendous spiritual power, it would not be the place that it is now. Shashi Maharaj made that place a spiritual dynamo. When you go there now, the atmosphere is so powerful. When you go there, the arati is fantastic, the bhajans they sing afterwards, and the monks and the devotees are just filled with enthusiasm. It's just remarkable. It was actually one of my favorite places I've ever been to. It was the last, I thought, oh my God, they hate. And it was deeply inspiring, deeply inspiring. I went there with a Gita Prana. And to my astonishment, I mean, we absolutely just like, wow, pure heaven, pure heaven. All because of Shashi Maharaj. And what he did there, Bangalore, all those areas around the south. And then, of course, when he very wisely brought Maharaj and Holy Mother. Now, you don't mess around when you bring the mother there. It's like, boom. So the south, the Mat is very, 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 very strong in South India. And we really have to thank Shashi Maharaj, Swami Ramakrishnananda for that. So again, today we begin our Jaya Shri Durgas. Everyone, let's do it. Let's get to chant the divine name of Mother Durga, who overcomes all obstacles. And she's on her lion, going after all our spiritual obstacles and holding us very tender. What the best thing about the Durga image that I really appreciate is that she's taking down the demons, and she always has this gentle smile on her face. In the Chandi, we read that when such is your compassion, mother, that even when you kill the asuras, even when you slay them, you give them liberation, you give them heaven. Because she's doing that. There is no anger. There is just like, this has to be done. But she gives them this spiritual freedom. So it's like, that's a good mama. Okay, so upcoming. Swami Ramakrishnananda will speak Sunday on what is superimposition. Is that already coming up? Yes. Saturday, we'll have a reading of the Gospel of Swami Ramakrishnananda at 5 p.m. Okay, and, oh yes, let's not forget Durga Puja. Leanne, you've got to fly in for it. That's all there is, all that we can say about it. Yes, thank you very much. Saturday, we have I'm sorry, I'm not even looking down here. Yes, Saturday is our Karma Yoga Day. All you from Orange County, and Texas, and wherever you may be. Boston, yes. Yes, Florida. You just come over here because about 9:15, we're going to start doing our Karma Yoga. Even your kitty can come and do Karma Yoga. I see, yes, he's ready to roll in that Karma Yoga. So please join us for Karma Yoga, and we'll all have fun together, and because we're getting the place ready for Durga Puja. We have to get everything all ready. And then, and we won't be doing a lot of heavy outdoor work because it's really just too warm for that. And then on Saturday, again, we'll have the 5 p.m. gospel reading. And let's see, what else did I forget, Davy? Karma Yoga, and then Durga Puja. Hello. Everyone have that on your calendar in bright red. The 12th from 11 until when he finishes, which is probably around 1 o'clock. And then we have a flower offering and prasad. Then we'll close the chant. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Thank you, everybody, for joining here and there. And stay cool, stay well, and so glad we could all be together. Okay, thanks. Jai Ma. Jai Ma.